At its height in 1920, the British Empire governed 35 million square kilometers, a massive global footprint controlled by a tiny island. The human scale was staggering. 400 million people, 1 in 4 on Earth, lived under British rule. Yet, go back to the late 1400s, and England was a minor power. It was an isolated kingdom, lagging behind the maritime reach of Spain and Portugal, with almost no influence beyond the shores of Europe. This raises a central question. How did an underdog win the globe? Looking back, England's path to power was defined by high-stakes reactions to potential failure, abandoning failing strategies to find entirely new ways to dominate. Analyzing the empire's life cycle reveals a recurring cycle of radical adaptation. These specific moments of change are what turned historical setbacks into a global monopoly. Queen Elizabeth I inherited a kingdom that lacked the resources to challenge Spanish dominance directly. To survive, she had to find ways to project power without a traditional superpower's treasury. She began by pouring resources into the Royal Navy and authorizing private sailors like Francis Drake to explore distant seas and challenge rival powers on their own terms. In 1600, Elizabeth expanded this strategy by granting a royal charter to the East India Company. Initially, this was a corporate engine designed simply to secure tea, silk, and spices from Asia. These early efforts established the 13 colonies in North America and provided the naval strength to defeat France in the 7 Years' War, making Britain the world's leading colonial power. Then came the disaster of 1783. Britain was forced to recognize the independence of the United States, dealing a blow that many observers believed would be fatal to the empire's global ambitions. But the loss of America triggered a total shift in British strategy. It proved that the empire's true strength was its refusal to collapse when its primary source of wealth was cut off. Britain responded by turning its attention toward the East. It used the East India Company to systematically build political and military control across the Indian subcontinent. After a major uprising in 1857, the British government took direct control of the region. This era of the British Raj saw India become the most valuable part of the empire, the jewel in the crown. At the same time, Britain was undergoing an internal transformation, the Industrial Revolution. Steam power and factory manufacturing transformed Britain into a machine. It could now produce goods and extract resources on a scale that was previously impossible. This combination of new colonial territory and industrial efficiency pushed the empire to its absolute peak by 1920. With its flag flying over parts of Africa, the Middle East, and the Pacific, it became the empire on which the sun never set. The empire reached its zenith by syncing corporate monopolies with industrial technology, creating an economic engine that no other nation could match. In the 20th century, Britain encountered shocks that finally exhausted its capacity for change. 2 world wars left the empire's economy and military reserves entirely depleted. Economic exhaustion coincided with a rise in global nationalism. Across Asia and Africa, powerful movements emerged to demand complete independence from British rule. The ultimate turning point arrived in 1947. Decades of struggle led by Mahatma Gandhi and his allies successfully ended British control over the Indian subcontinent. At the same time, the work of leaders like Muhammad Ali Jinnah led to the creation of separate independent states. The 1947 partition of India and Pakistan resulted in a massive, chaotic shifting of borders and one of the largest human displacements in history. The loss of India broke the dam. It signaled that the old methods of control were no longer viable, initiating a rapid wave of decolonization that transformed the maps of Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean. The physical empire has since disappeared, replaced by a voluntary commonwealth of sovereign nations. But the structures it built remain deeply embedded in the modern world. The empire spread the English language, parliamentary traditions, and global trade systems across every inhabited continent. This growth was built on conquest and the suppression of local populations, leaving a legacy of violence and extraction that continues to be a subject of intense historical debate. Today, the railways, ports, and administrative institutions built during the colonial era still shape many countries, standing as physical reminders of a period defined by both technical progress and deep suffering. The British Empire was humanity's largest experiment in global power. It left behind lasting institutions and generational scars, and you cannot understand the modern world without understanding the island that drew its borders.